Okay, great. So let's start with a restorative posture or two, and just depending on what's going on in your body, you might want different ones. So I'm going to offer that we start with child's pose or the massage table first. If you are recovering from a cold, sometimes laying on your back doesn't feel so good. So it's nice to be folded forward. So child's pose, you'd have toes together, knees wide. And then if you have a prop like a bolster, you could put it in between your thighs. You don't necessarily need that, but it can be nice. And you can also elevate that a little bit just to give yourself a little bit more space. If you have a couple more props, you don't really need a ton more, but if you have a bolster or a couple cushions and a low soft cushion, you can also do the massage table. This is a nice one if you've got any knee sensitivity. It's a very similar feeling to child's pose, like in tension, but just a bit of a different shape. So you can be here, just torso on the prop, arms in a cactus or resting beside your hips, and the legs can be straight, or you can do like a little frog shape, as long as, again, that feels good on your knees. So the cold that I have been recovering from lately, it's been really helpful just to turn down a little bit, just kind of let my sinuses be in this direction. And today is a day where, just in the check-in, we're exploring needing a little rest, needing a little space, needing to slow down a little bit and kind of feel our bodies. So I'll encourage you to take a few really nice deep breaths into your lower back, back of the pelvis, tailbone. So you can kind of think about back of the pelvic floor. We've been talking a lot about pelvic floor in this series, and we'll continue to do that. But here's a place where we can really just breathe down low into that place and feel into the back of it a little bit towards the tailbone. And one of the things that we can also be exploring a little bit as we move through our practice, especially if you do have a little space away from kiddo to be in your practice, is noticing which postures allow you to relax the pelvic floor a little bit more, because that area is so hooked into our nervous systems, and different shapes can sometimes send different signals to our nervous systems that we're safe. So child's pose and massage table are two that, it depends on you, but a lot of people really find that they're quite calming, feel quite comfortable and safe. So just notice how much you can breathe into the lower part of your pelvis, the back of your pelvis. And just let that be the only thing that you need to focus on right now, is just breathing down into your pelvis. And we're just going to do that in the quiet for the next 5 minutes. So if anything becomes uncomfortable, you can move, you can change something, you can roll over to your side. But other than that, let's just take a little bit of space. We probably need the quiet a little bit today as well. If you have your head turned to one side, you can keep it as it is or turn it in the other direction. And whatever you're noticing in the environment around you. And just see if you can really give yourself permission to come back, breathing into the pelvis. Allow yourself to focus just on you. We've just got a few more breaths here, noticing that if you need or want a little bit more time in this shape or any other, feel free to take that. And then when you feel ready to come out of child's pose, you can do that by coming to your hands and your knees and just gently extending one leg at a time. If you're coming out of the massage table, you could instead come onto your elbows or your hands with the legs straight and just take a little more of a supported back bend kind of a shape. Good, and let's go ahead and take a twist. So I'm just gonna give you two options. Option A is nice to stay in that rounded place a little bit longer. It's nice, again, if you've got sinus stuff going on, you're just gonna sit on one hip. So this is my left hip here, my knees point out to the right, the bolster stays in the same position, and then you fold down. So this is a restorative variation of a twist. It's relatively mild, a little bit of an opening in the hips and lower back. If you're okay to lay on your back and you want a little bit more shoulder chest opening, actually I'll keep this bolster here. You can come and lay on your back. Shift your hips to the right, knees to the left, and you might want to put a prop like the bolster in between your knees. You don't necessarily have to. And then you can go ahead and open your right arm out to the right, maybe turning your head to the right as well. So I like to actually roll fully onto my side and just make sure there's a little bit of a curve in my lower back before I roll open. I find that that always just gives a little bit more opening into the chest there. And this is a nice one, again, for that inner shoulder area, and can be really nice for the lower back as well. So either of those twists are great, just whichever one's feeling better for you. And again, we're still working in this restorative zone a little bit longer since we do have a little quiet and a little space to do that today. And again, the work here is to really give yourself permission to stay focused on yourself, on your body, on your breath moving down into your pelvis. It might include noticing emotions that are present. Sometimes when we're in a lot of caretaking, we don't have a lot of space to really focus on ourselves and what we feel. We can get kind of disconnected. And so this is an opportunity to just reconnect. And that doesn't have to look like anything specific. We don't have to kind of have some sort of insight and do something about it. It's nothing like that. It's just simply allowing ourselves to be in this space where the caretaking is focused inward. We're focusing on caring for ourselves right now, which is not always easy to let ourselves do. So allow that to be your practice right now. And the anchor of it is the breath in the belly, softening as much as you can. Just here a little bit longer, keeping in mind that this should be pretty comfortable. A bit of a stretch is nice. But if anything is becoming uncomfortable, it's always totally fine to come out early, to roll over onto your side, whatever you need to do. And taking another nice deep breath or two here. And again, be as slow as you need to be, stay as long as you'd like. Okay, when you feel ready to come out of the shape, if you're laying in the twist, you could bring your knees to your chest or roll to your side, just whichever feels easier for you. If you're in that downward facing one, you could just press up to your seat. And then we'll adjust to the second side. So if you're seated, you can just bring your knees over to the other side so that you're sitting on your right hip. Knees could be together or a little separated, and fold forward into your little forward twist here. Or you could come to lay down on your right side is one way of coming in, and roll that left arm open, or from your back, just shifting the hips a little bit left and bringing them down to the right. So whatever works for you in coming into this shape. You're welcome to put a prop between your knees. That's supportive for many of us, especially if the lower back is a little on the sensitive side. And just make sure there's no tingling in your hands. If there is, you could put your hand on your chest, or you could try the forward folded twist instead. Maybe your head turns away from your knees, maybe it rocks a little bit, maybe it stays neutral. All of that is fine. Just seeing if you can be as soft as possible, feel as supported as possible. And then again, coming back to this practice of allowing yourself to focus on your own breath, your own belly. Any emotions that do come up, which they may or may not. And one of the best practices I've ever learned from yoga is really it's essentially mindfulness, being able to notice that if I stay with an emotion, if I get curious about that emotion, where do I feel it in my body? What exactly does it feel like? Without trying to change it or make it go away, it actually often flows through me, and then it just kind of disappears or changes into something else. So the more I surrender to it, the more I can soften with that and just let that be okay. Again, just about 5 or 6 more breaths here, keeping in mind that you can absolutely stay longer. You can absolutely come out early, just listening to your body. And when you feel ready to come out, you can roll over to your side or onto your back or press up to your seat. And if you're laying on your back, you could hug your knees into your chest, give them a little hug. If you're seated, maybe the windshield wipers. Nice, everybody. Okay, so let's get moving a little bit here gently. So I'll invite you to come up towards your hands and your knees, and we'll do a little bit of cat and cow. Keep in mind, this could be done seated. It doesn't have to be on hands and knees. It works in pretty much any seat. Just moving the spine. So inhaling into a little bit of a back bend shape and exhaling to round. You can close your eyes if you like and just go as slow as you want to go. Maybe adding circles or side to side movement. Cat and cow is, I mean, I probably teach and practice cat and cow in every class because it's just so nice for really checking in, just feeling shoulders, hips, spine, belly. There's a lot you can check in with when you're moving through cat and cow, however you're doing it. Awesome. And then let's make our way into a little bit of pelvic floor work. So I'll invite you to grab your whatever prop it is that you're using to get a little bit of feedback from your pelvic floor. So I have this pool noodle, which is awesome. But you can also use a rolled up yoga mat, a rolled up towel. You can use a bolster. And you can sit however you like. I'm gonna be on hands and knees. Or sorry, I'm gonna be sitting on my heels, is what I meant there. And I'm gonna take the bolster in between, pool noodle on top. Okay, I know not all of you have a pool noodle, kind of a specific prop to have. You could take your bolster sort of like this so that you're sitting kind of on the edge of it. You could sit on your yoga mat, again, sitting cross-legged is fine too, maybe up on a little bit of a cushion if you have your little roll there. And you just want to have it right in between your sit bones. So it's kind of right up in your business. Okay, right up in that business. Pregnancy and birth involves a lot of getting up in that business, right? So let's do it in a way that's really supportive and nice for us. So wherever you are, however you've kind of found that place, let's try a little bit of pelvic tilting, or you can think of this as cat and cow, just with a bit of focus here. So think of rolling a little bit forward on that piece of support, so towards pubic bone, and then rolling a little bit back towards tailbone. And if this is too intense, back off or change your prop, or just take it out altogether. You don't need specifically a prop to do this. You can just do it with your mind. Okay, and keeping in mind that if it hurts, it's going to be counterproductive for the pelvic floor, so it should feel safe, okay, the whole time. Yeah, so we're just feeling around a little bit, just noticing for places where there's a little bit of tenderness or funny feelings. And if you want to kind of roll a little from side to side, or even make a circle with your spine just to help you kind of explore those places, I found for me that it's sort of on the insides of the sit bones where I've felt that there's been a lot of like tension and tenderness, and this has really helped me with that. I know it probably feels kind of funny to be doing this sort of practice, but that's what we're here for, right? It's like, well, if it helps, let's try it and see how it goes. Okay, and then let's find just a nice neutral seat. So I find for myself, that means I have to sit back a little bit more than I normally would for a comfortable seat. So just sort of compromising for yourself in that place where you feel like you can sit up tall, but you're still getting some pretty good contact with the prop if you're using it. And then let's take 3 breaths to really soften over the prop. So just imagine you're kind of releasing, relaxing. And again, it's okay if emotions come up. It's normal if they do. The pelvic floor is so emotionally connected. If anything, it feels too much at any point, just come off the prop, no problemo. Just seeing if you can breathe into the flow of those emotions if something is arising. And again, it's a little easier to do that if you have some space away from kiddo today. You can focus on yourself a little bit more. Okay, one more breath. Good. Okay, and we're going to do a little bit of pelvic work here, a little bit of contraction. So again, if the prop feels like too much at any point, just take it out, but we'll try to use it. So again, it'll just give us a little bit of feedback. So as you inhale, softening over the prop. And then as you exhale, imagine you're almost gathering that prop up into your body. So you're pulling in and up with your pelvic floor. And then inhale, release, opening, softening as much as you can. Exhale, gathering in and up. Inhale, softening. Exhale, gathering. In and up. Let's do one more. So just experimenting with these different things. Some parts will work better than others, so we're just kind of noticing where our brains connect. And then let's come off that prop, just taking a comfortable seat. Movement, fidgeting is fine, or just being still. And take a moment to notice sort of the effects of that energetically and physically. As you breathe deeply, can you feel your pelvic floor? What do you notice? Awesome. Okay, so let's come off this prop altogether. If you're still sitting on something there, we're going to come back to hands and knees, and feel free to use your fists here if your wrists are a little bit sensitive. You could also put your hands up on blocks. Sometimes that's a nice way to take a little bit of pressure off the wrist, so just keeping that in mind. I'd like to try a little bit of an experiment here. So we can tuck the toes under if the knees are okay with that. Bring the hips back to the heels. Inhale, and then as you exhale, gather pelvic floor in and up. You can start really slowly here. Hollow out your belly, so rounding forward, kind of like an angry cat. And then just pull through into a little mini plank. So just until you feel your core kind of catching a bit, and then stretch back. So with diastasis especially, just go really slowly. Okay, if it doesn't feel safe, don't do it. You could look down maybe and just kind of feel, is my belly drawing in and up? And that's really the work that we want to feel here. And don't feel like you have to go all the way into that plank. Just thinking about gathering belly in and up. Sometimes with a rounded spine, it just helps with that kind of neural connection there. And just coming forward to a place where you feel like you're getting a little bit of something. And this is a nice one that is relatively accessible. It's nice for the core, and you can do it with the baby around, usually, depending on the age of the baby and other things. So we're just sort of teaching the core to connect. And if this is feeling pretty safe, pretty comfortable, maybe you want to come a little farther into it and just hold for a few breaths, thinking of drawing the shoulders onto the back, looking forward and really focusing on that in and up quality. Sometimes the belly can pop forward here. If you feel like that's happening, back off. And stretch back, really nice. You can stand on your knees or sit on your heels. Let's just take a couple of wrist circles. And actually, let's take our full begging dog, which is my favorite for the wrists. So we inhale, spread the fingers really nice and wide. And then exhale and curl the fists into like a little paw. Inhale, we're stretching open. Exhale, we're curling. Good. Let's do one more of those. Nice. Okay. And then release that. Give your hands a little shake or a little circle. So I'm going to offer you guys a push-up, which might sound kind of funny, but I actually find when done correctly, this is quite helpful for the shoulders and just rebuilding that strength in the arms, which I lost a lot of arm strength when I was pregnant and initially postpartum. So here's what I mean when I talk about a push-up. So I want to come forward just like we've been talking about. We're in that little mini plank. My knees are down, and I'm taking my hands actually right off the mat. So they're pretty wide. And I want to think about looking forward, and I don't care how low down we're going, but you want to think about bottom tips of the shoulder blades coming together, okay? So imagine that the push-up is really happening in the mid back. So I don't want it to feel like it's all this sort of stuff with the shoulders, but rather really happening more in the upper back. If you're doing a centimeter of a push-up, that's perfect, okay? Don't feel like you have to go any further than that. And really look quite far forward to help keep your shoulders down your back, okay? So if you haven't already started, let's try 5. So inhale, as you exhale, lower some amount.
Julie, if that's hurting the lower back, do you have any suggestions?
If it's hurting the lower back, probably the core needs to engage just a little bit more. You could try it a little more like on a hands and knees, and just don't go too far, just to see if you can kind of get that feeling of the feeling that I want is almost like the shoulder blades themselves are coming together.
Yeah.
So if anything, don't worry too much about the arms themselves, but really that mid back. So is that helpful if you do it there?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yes,
Thanks.
okay, good. Yeah, just don't go too far because then you'll scrunch. Yeah. So we're aiming for about 5. You guys have probably already done your 5, or maybe 1 or 10, but wherever you're at today is perfect. And then let's come all the way down to the belly. I never knew how much I liked being on my belly until I was pregnant and I couldn't. It's so beneficial to be here in so many ways. So just take a moment to relax onto the belly. A lot of the time when there's lower back stuff going on, it helps to be here depending on what we're doing. So we're going to point the toes Tops of the feet press down, glutes engage, and then take your arms into a little cactus shape. We'll start here. Roll the shoulders onto the back, okay? Inhale and lift up any amount. So it can be, again, super low. Exhale and lower. And we're just going to take a few of these. So this is one of my favorite lower back therapies. It's a little bit of a squeeze and release for the lower back. So for me, I have a bit of scoliosis and I have a tendency to get a little off kilter, and that's been exacerbated with pregnancy and birth. So this I find is a really nice way of just kind of reorganizing, getting the lower back into a little bit more symmetry. So just gentle with this. And again, as high or as low as you feel comfortable. We'll just take one more. And if you'd like to try staying for a breath or two, feel free. And then release. Come on down, relax your bum, relax your heels. A couple nice deep breaths. Okay, next piece is for the shoulders. So if you have a strap and you want to use it, you can take it around behind your back, palms face down. I don't necessarily need a strap. I'm just going to interlace my fingers. You could also hook the thumbs. Point the toes, again, engage the legs. Pubic bone presses down, core is gently engaged. Hug the elbows together and then press the hands away from the face. So you don't have to lift up very high here. I'm more concerned about the shoulders than the back right now. So just a very small lift is perfect. And then think of pulling the fists towards the heels, heart forward, and breathe. This is definitely one of my poses that I never thought that much about before, but postpartum, my goodness, this is the one. Nice, and then let's gently release down onto the belly. Take a couple breaths. Okay, so I'd like to be on the belly just a little bit longer. If this isn't working for you, you can lay on your side and do this laying on your side. It should be pretty intuitive once we get into it. Just go ahead and bend your right leg and hold onto your foot with your right hand. You can stay nice and low. Squeeze your bum, press the pubic bone down, flare the toes of both feet, and just resist your foot into your hand into your foot a bit. So you should feel a pretty juicy quadricep stretch there. And then gently release and switch sides. So bend the left leg. Hold on to the foot and engage the glutes. Pubic bone presses down, flare the toes. Press your foot into your hand into your foot. So we're really targeting specifically the quadriceps. You can definitely do this laying on your side. It's exactly the same, just laying on your side. Nice, and then gently release. You take a moment to relax your bum. You can give your bum a little wiggle. Okay, so from here, let's roll over onto our backs. We do a little bit more core work. So one of the best things to do for lower back stuff is functional core work. The other piece is outer hip strengthening. So hopefully we'll get to both today. And there's a little more pelvic floor work we can do here too. So actually, I do want to say one thing. If you're quite congested today, or I know sometimes with sciatica, you don't want to lay flat on your back, you could elevate a little bit. So it's a little harder to do the core work here, but if this helps you having a little ramp to lay on, please feel free to take this laying like that, okay? Otherwise, just flat on your back. Okay, I still got my socks on, which is actually handy for this piece here. So laying just with the feet on the ground, neutral back, so there's a little bit of space underneath your back. Inhale, Exhale, gather that pelvic floor in and up, belly button presses in and up, and you're gonna try to keep that connected the whole time. Middle fingers on hip points, thumbs on ribs. Inhale. As you exhale, slide your right foot towards straight, doesn't have to straighten all the way. And as you exhale, slide it back up. Okay, exhale, left leg goes out long. And then slide it back up. So what you want to think about is the 4 points you're connecting to here are staying steady and they're gathering in towards each other. Sometimes this helps us to engage the transverse abdominis. Again, we really want to think about the belly button scooping in and up. Okay, so this is an excellent core rehabilitation. This is great if your lower back is bothering you today. Okay, if you want to take it a little bit further, we can go a little bit deeper by lifting one foot at a time. So that's just going to be a little bit more work for the core. Or you could lift both feet and lower one foot at a time. Okay, and then you could add shoulder blades lifting up, interlacing the fingers around behind the back of the head. So depending on where you're at in terms of your core strength right now, just taking whichever variation feels like you're getting a little bit of work in your core that feels functional and your belly button's not popping forward, it's drawing in and up. This is especially important if you do have quite a bit of diastasis, which you know, pretty much everyone has at least a little bit of diastasis after being pregnant. So nothing wrong with that, but we're working with that depending on how long ago you had your pregnancy. But for everyone, it's important to do this work of drawing in and up, using that transverse abdominis. Okay, and we're just trying to work to a point of a little bit of fatigue. So if you're there, you can stop or take a break. If you're feeling like you can go a little bit more, you're not getting too tired, you're not kind of losing your alignment. Let's try a few more breaths. Really nice. I'm just going to take one more each side. And then relax. You can take soles of the feet together, knees open wide, or hug the knees in if you prefer. Just take a few moments to consciously relax your pelvic floor. Okay, so I'd like to do one more here. This one's a little more subtle. It involves the pelvic floor a little bit more. So go ahead and place your feet on the floor once again. Take your middle fingers to your hip points, thumbs to your low ribs, same as before, and just this time bring the feet a little closer together. Flare the toes, gather the 4 points in towards each other, and see if you can feel your pelvic floor drawing in and up. Okay, inhale. Sorry, I always tell the breath wrong with this one. We want to, right, sorry. We want to, as we inhale, one leg opens to the side. So left leg can open to the left. And then on the exhale, we're bringing the knee back up through center. Inhale, the opposite knee, right knee opens to the right some amount. And then we're exhaling to bring the knee back in through center, okay? Try to keep your 4 points steady. And that's really the challenge here. So depending on how connected you are to these deep core muscles, you might feel a lot of wobbling and shifting. So we're just working on trying to get those muscles to stabilize the pelvis, which is really their job, but they can forget, especially if they've been all stretched out and doing all kinds of stuff while we were pregnant and not having a chance to rehab after birth or cesarean. So just working with the brain a little bit, this one. Okay, and that's plenty. If you feel like you can add if you have a little more brain power for this one, here's what you can think about. So let's say my right knee is opening to the right on my inhale. On my exhale, I want to imagine that the right half of my pelvic floor is doing the work of bringing the leg back up. Then I inhale, the left knee opens to the left, and then my left half of my pelvic floor is actually going to initiate the movement and draw up. So that feels quite different for me. And I think this is a really nice way of just trying to reconnect the wires to the pelvic floor, which you know, sometimes those wires disconnect for a lot of different reasons. Okay, and again, if you're feeling like, woo, that's plenty, at any time, stop there. I'm just going to do one more each side. Again, just doing like one or two without all that concentration is going to be more powerful than doing 25 without thinking about it. Okay, and then rest. So knees can come together or fall apart. Take a couple deep breaths and really consciously relax that pelvic floor. We don't want to keep it tense. Awesome. Okay, when you're ready, go ahead and roll over onto your right side. So I want to do a little bit of this butt core, which is super helpful for the lower back, and then I want to move on to some other stuff. So I'm laying on my left side. I've got my head resting in my hand. It could be resting on my arm too. Knees are together, just slightly down from my pelvis. Okay, so very mild engagement through the core, maybe 10%. I'm going to straighten out my top leg, flex the foot, and turn the toes a little bit down towards the earth. Then the heel is going to go back and up on the inhale. So it's like I'm making a letter J, and then down, back, and then up. Okay, it doesn't have to go far. We're not going to do too many of these. I'm aiming for about 6, but I'm bad at counting while talking. Okay. So back and up, and you want to kind of feel that outer hip doing that work. Try to keep the toes pointing a little bit down. Nice. Okay. So keep doing this, or we'll add on with challenge. Okay. If you're okay to try a little bit more challenging, bring the leg a little forward so it's roughly in line with your bottom leg. Keep the toes a little turned down and just lift and lower. So you don't have to do the J shape here. But this one is like, if you weren't feeling it before, you will be feeling it now. Let's try for 2 more if you can. Whew, nice work, you guys. Relax and pad out that outer hip with your soft fist. Yeah, so you could sort of work up to 8, 10, 20 of each of those. I find that one's pretty effective. Okay, let's come to the second side. So feel free to roll over. I'm just gonna flip here. Okay, so just again, mild connection to the core. This isn't an overly core exercise. We just want some stability in the back. Straighten out that top leg, toes turn a little down, and the heel goes back and then up. So that just helps us to make sure that we're using the glute, not something else. For 2. And 1, and again, feel free to stay there. That's lots of work. Or if you can add a little bit more challenge, we'll bring the leg forward. So it's about 45 degrees or so. And the heel just goes straight up and down. Try to keep the toes facing down so that we're really using the glute muscles, not the hip flexors. And you may or may not have noticed you're actually using both of your legs. Good. Last 2. And 1. Really good, you guys. And then we can pad out that outer hip. Ah, really nice. Good. Beautiful. Okay, let's make our way back to our hands and our knees. And you can return to your cat and cow if you'd like. Again, this can be done in a seat. And just kind of feel now. So we've just been doing a little bit more work in different areas of the body. So just noticing how that's landing, if you're feeling your core any differently, your outer hips. Okay, and then from here, let's try a downward facing dog. So you can tuck your toes under, lift your bum up, and then maybe pedal out your heels, so bending one knee at a time. Little bend in the elbows, hug them together. Try to let your head be relaxed. If this becomes unfriendly at any point, just bring your knees down or walk your feet forward. We're going to meet in that standing forward fold. Okay, and go ahead and come there when you're ready. So feet towards hands, maybe hips distance apart or wider. You can rest your elbows on bent knees. That's especially nice if your lower back is bugging you today. Or you can hang down or dangle your arms to just see what works for you. And I love this one again. My spine goes a little weird, wonky sometimes, and being in the forward fold, just kind of letting gravity help me realign, I find is really lovely. And then we'll roll up. So totally okay to bend your knees, look forward and rise, or if you can, just hanging down, draw belly in, lean into your heels, and come to stand. Awesome. Okay, so take a moment in your standing shape. So you've got a little bit of a bend in the knees, and your weight is mostly in your heels. Allow your tailbone to slightly tip back, and just see if you can think about your pelvic floor, your diaphragm, and the back of your throat all coming into alignment with each other. Yeah. Is that Shepherd? Hey, buddy. Yeah. Okay, so we've been talking about these hypopressives. I just want to come back to that a little bit. This is something we've been working on week to week. So we're just going to come back to it a little bit. So part of what we're talking about is diaphragmatic breath. This is essentially ujjayi. So as we inhale, the ribs lift and flare. Okay, and that happens in the side ribs and the back ribs. And when we do that, rather than the belly going forward, it actually comes in and up. Okay, and we were talking a bit last week about how there can be a tendency to lift the shoulders when we do that. So one thing we can think about is allowing that, so the shoulders kind of helping to lift the ribs, but then mindfully softening the shoulders and then exhaling. So we talked about that a bit last week. I want to bring this into some movement today, so feel free to stop me and ask any questions if you have them. But one of the best things about this breath for me is really how it can create space in the belly and movement. So I'm just going to show you what I mean by that if I can. I'll just tuck in here so you can kind of see what's going on. So we're going to do a simple half sun salutation. So that essentially looks like this. We reach the arms up. So it's okay to lift your shoulders a bit. There's nothing wrong with lifting your shoulders. And you can really let that help you to lift and widen the ribs. So the belly draws in. And then we fold, bending the knees, coming down. And then there's this halfway lift moment. So the hands come onto the shins and we pull forward, but rather than just lifting normally, I want you to think about that hollowing of the belly so that it's really this kind of lift and release. And again, it's okay to lift your shoulders up a little bit. Just try to relax them as you exhale. And then bend the knees, look forward, rise up, and lift. Okay, so I'm going to try to show you what that looks like. Feel free to do it with me or watch if you prefer. And I'm just going to exaggerate it as much as I can with the breath. Okay, so you can kind of see how the energy is drawing in and up in my belly there, yeah? All right, so let's give that a try. So when you're ready, go ahead and reach your arms up, lift, feel that hollowing of the belly. Exhale, fold down. So good, you guys. Halfway lift, really draw belly in so you get this long back. Nice. And soften. Bend the knees, rising all the way up. Hands to heart, relax the shoulders mindfully. Good. Let's take a couple more. That looks really good, you guys. Feel free to ask questions. Let's just take a few of these, kind of get into the rhythm a little bit. Folding down. Yeah, and feel free to go off pace with me, just really listening to your own breath. Following. And soften. And rise. Hands to heart. Inhale. Exhale. This is so good for like clearing energy too. Which it's a full moon right now, so maybe we need that too. Nice. Let's do one more. So good. Nice, you guys. How did that feel? Did you feel that kind of opening spaciousness in the belly when you did that?
Yeah, it felt really connected. Like I've actually never had such a deep rooted connection while I was doing sun salutations. It felt really different in a good way.
Awesome. Yeah, I find once I found the breath that way, it's like that's how I can really, it's like you're diving into the water, right? It's like you're kind of really going in and you can be in the rhythm of it. So let's add on to that a little bit. And this is a little sequence that you can take with you. You can kind of do this anytime, maybe with baby. And if you have a bit of an older kiddo, maybe they want to do it too, right? So they can join us. So we'll inhale just like we've been doing, finding that opening in the ribs. Exhale, diving down. Lengthen halfway, almost pulling at the floor to help lengthen the ribs. And then this time as you exhale, step your right foot back, lower your knee down. You can keep it lifted if that's more comfortable for you. And then rise up. And then settle your shoulders. Try to lift your heart through your shoulders. And then forward fold. Just come on back to the top of your mat. Lengthen, inhale. Exhale, melt. Then the knees rise all the way up, hollowing. And then fold right back down to the earth. Nice. Halfway lift. Left foot steps back, lower the knee down. High lunge is fine here too if your knees are a bit more sensitive. Rise up as you inhale. So find that hollowing, but then mindfully relax the shoulders. Lift the heart through. And then exhale, top of your mat. Lengthen. And melt. And the knees rise all the way up. Hands to heart. So good. Let's do that again at your own pace. Take your time. Inhale to rise. So exactly the same thing. Exhale, melt. Lengthen. Right foot back, high or low lunge. Rise up, find that space in the ribs. Mindfully relax your shoulders and imagine your sternum bone is trying to lift up as you inhale. And as you exhale, come back to the top of your mat. So your breath doesn't have to be the same pace as mine, okay? You can go faster or slower. Half lift and melt. Then the knees rise up. Exhale, dive. Lengthen. Left foot back. Inhale. And soften the shoulders. Lengthen. Heart lifts, nice. And then forward fold. Lengthen. And melt. And the knees rise all the way up. Hands to heart. And take a moment to feel, to breathe. If you're still in the sequence, just take your sweet time coming back here. Okay, so try to keep that quality of breath with you. When you get back to standing, you can just stay standing as you are and hook your thumbs, interlace your fingers, or if you're more comfortable with a strap, you can grab a strap. So any of those will work. Soften the knees just a bit, like we did on our bellies. Hug the elbows together. Press them down. Lift your chest. Open the heart. And then you can do a little bit of drawing your right hand a little more to the right and maybe taking your right ear slightly towards your shoulder. So you'll just get a little more of a neck stretch there. And then through center, and then pull on your left hand a little bit more. Left ear can come to the left shoulder. Back through center. If that felt good, just do that one more time each side. So take your time. If you want a couple of breaths to do that, you can. We're really just trying to find that opening in the chest. So nice, you guys. And then when that feels even for you, come through center and open. So I find that just staying in this open place, just drawing the hands down, opening the chest, just really letting the shoulders be heavy can be so nice. You might experiment with lifting the chin a little bit too, just getting that bit of space of openness for the throat. Okay, if you're a little more comfortable, a little more familiar with this in your yoga practice, you could bend your knees a little more, widen the feet slightly, and you could actually grab a hold of your inner thighs. So it's like a standing camel. And then you could draw the inner thighs back as you open the heart even a little bit more. So that can hurt your lower back. If you've got pain, just come back here. And then gently ease off, come back to standing, and take a moment just to feel that. Pelvic floor, diaphragm, throat all in line. Breathing together. Good, reach your arms up again. Fold down. Lengthen, and this time let's sit down onto your bum. And actually let's stay on our bums for a moment. So you might be okay just on your bum. You might want to sit on a little something. Extend your legs out, and then take your right ankle onto your left thigh. And then bend your left knee until you feel a little stretch. You could do this laying on your back too. So it's a variation on thread the needle. It's called cobbler's pose. Fingertips behind you, press your heart towards your shin, and then you might want to rock a little bit from side to side. So with lower back pain, we definitely want to strengthen the outer hips. We definitely also want to open them. They can get really tight too. And just like with the pelvic floor, we need both. Like with every muscle in the body, we need release and strengthening, not just one or the other. Okay, and if you're pretty comfortable here, you have some space in your hips, you could walk your left foot to the right until the shins stack and take this as more of a forward fold. This is a pose called double pigeon that it seems to really be just a question of your anatomy. Like if your bones go that way, it'll feel good. If the bones don't go that way, it won't feel good. It's not even so much about how tight you are, but just how the bones are organized. Nice, and then we'll gently release that. So you can come back up to your seat if you're folded forward, unhook your legs, give them a little shake. And then take the second side, so left ankle to right thigh, bending in. And a little rock from side to side, just massaging that outer hip. Maybe you want to come into that forward fold if that's a place that your body likes to go. Maybe not. That's okay too. Awesome. And then when you're ready, let's gently roll up from the fold, release your legs. You could shake them out or do a windshield wiper. Okay, and then I'd love for us to take a restorative shape like into our Shavasana and take a little bit of time there if you can. So lots of different ways to do this. Again, if you're more comfortable laying on your side or on your belly, feel free to do that. If you can lay on your back, let's play with a little chest opening. So there are a couple different ways to do this. The classic one is to have the bolster or a couple of cushions or whatever behind your back, and you're laying back and just allowing for that opening here. A variation I love for myself, Megan, I think you might like this one, is if you're sitting up, this is if you have a bolster, you can do this with not a bolster too, but you want to think about trying to kind of organize yourself so that the top edge of your prop is in the curve of your neck and you're actually allowing your head to drop back. So it's still that same opening in the chest. My bum is kind of hanging down a little bit here, but it actually opens my throat slightly more and I can experiment with where I want my arms to be. So feel free to try that if you like. And you could do that with any kind of soft prop here, just thinking of the occipital bone just coming off the top edge of it so that you're supported a little higher up on your spine. And if that isn't working for you, just let your bum land and take the opening however it works for you. And if it's not, lay on your side. This is a nice Shavasana if you don't like laying on your back. A little prop between your knees, prop under your head. And add any bits and bobs that you might have. So maybe you've got a blanket. Maybe you've got something to cover your eyes with. Or maybe you're just seated and hanging it with your little one, which is fine too. And if you are taking that throat opening variation that I was showing, you might want to keep your knees bent. You can experiment with it, see how it feels to have your legs straight. If you happen to have another bolster, a couple cushions, you can put them under your thighs, but I find just keeping the knees bent, feet kind of wide works for me. And then wherever you are, whatever this shape looks like for you, which again might be seated with little one, and that's fine. Just how can you find some rest? How can you find a little bit of space for yourself here? Maybe you can't today, and that's okay. But if it's possible, just return your attention to breathing down into your belly. Giving yourself permission to focus on yourself to any degree that's possible for you right now. And if it doesn't feel possible, also just noticing that, right? That's okay. Just notice that that's where you're at today. Take a moment to notice how you're feeling right now. Notice the quality of your relationship with your body, with your breath. And breathe a little deeper into whatever that is without needing to judge it or try to change it right now. You can bring in some intuitive movements, maybe some wiggles, rocking your head, maybe a stretch. Eventually drawing in the knees and curling over to one side. And if you're coming off that little back bend shape, you might just want to take an extra moment to close your heart, to kind of feel protected again, to allow your back to support your front. And in your own time, you can come up to a seat. You could put your hands together at your heart. You could put your palms over top of your heart, or it might feel nice to put one hand on your heart and one hand kind of on that womb area. And then take a moment to bow your mind to your hands, just honoring and acknowledging the work that it took for you to show up to your practice today. I know it's not easy. Honoring and acknowledging whatever that practice was like for you today. Honoring the long and complex lineage of teachers that are with us in our practice. And honoring the land that we practice on, wherever that may be in the world. Thank you for sharing that practice.